This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, today we will see the inheritance in OOPs and also encapsulation. We're already seen some of the properties of OOPs in the yesterday, like inheritance, encapsulation, and also polymorphism and data abstraction. And we have so many other properties also. Out of those, we can discuss a few, which is more important to us. Okay. So for that, you need to start a new Jupyter Python 3 file. So I'm already started my Jupyter server and I'm already created a folder for today. So it's up to you to create a folder. So for maintenance purpose, I'm just creating a new folder for every day. So today is day 18, and with respect to that, I'm passing some kind of topic names. There I'm going to create a new Python 3 notebook. So all of you start your Python 3 notebook and just rename it with the topic name day 18, and today is about inheritance. Okay, and let's make a agenda. The agenda is about inheritance. And data encapsulation. Data encapsulation. And if the time persists, we will discuss about polymorphism also. Okay, these are all the day agenda for day 18, and convert this cell into markdown. The first one is inheritance. Can you hear this term called inheritance in real time? If you heard it and where you hear it and what you observe, let me know in the chat box your responses. Yeah, it's a kind of sharing properties or sharing generations. Yeah, like a parent child. Yeah. So yeah, thanks for your responses. Whatever the scenarios we have in a real time, those all can be applicable in the programming point of view also. So how it is means with the help of inheritance in OOPs, we can see how it is going to be happen. And the inheritance is defined as the capability of one class to derive or inherit the properties from some other class. That means whatever the properties that our grandparents and our parents must have, that all properties should be ours, right? So this is a kind of scenario in a real time we can see. So whatever the properties that our parents have, those are all belongs to us, like houses and mobiles, all those things. But whatever the properties that are us having, that doesn't suited to our parents. So likewise, we can implement the inheritance. So before that, let's make it a definition here. Inheritance is defined as capability of uh, capability of accessing the properties from one class to parent class to our child class, like derived class. We can define it like that. So let's make it here. Inheritance is defined as the capability of one class to derive or inherit the properties from some other class. And this is very important topic, any kind of object oriented programming, because this is very important property that can support. Okay, inheritance is defined as the capability of one class to derive or inherit the properties from some other class. Okay, here the some other class may be our parent class, and a derived class can be simply called as a child class, nothing but subclass. So we can call parent class as a superclass and also base class, and we can call derived class also subclass and also child class. Okay, So derived class is simply nothing but a child class or subclass. Some other classes means a grandparent or those like superclass and base class. We can call it as superclass and base class. So after inheriting the properties, we can use it wherever we need. So and this inheritance can provide some kind of properties also. Let's note it that properties that can support is it represents real-time entities, like it can represent real world relationships, like our child parent class represents real world relationship. And the second property it can supports, so the code reusability, that means whatever the code that can defined by superclass, if you want to use it, you can directly reuse it by accessing. Instead of defining again, we can use the code whatever they defined already. So that is also one of the property. It can provide reusability of code. Reusability of a predefined code. And also it can support one kind of property like transitive in nature. Transitive in nature. So transitive in nature means whatever the properties that our grandparents might have that can suitable to our parents, and those are the properties or belongs to us. So that is called simply in the real time like transitive in nature. Okay, which means that if the class B, or if you take some kind of two classes, like A is our parent, B is our child, like you. So then how it is work means the class B inherits the properties from another class like A. That means what are the properties that A have, those are all belongs to B also. That can be simply called as a transitive in nature. Okay, this is the property that can supports by inheritance. And we can see how it is possible in the programming point of view. Let's convert this cell into markdown, and before that convert cell into markdown and run it. Okay, so let's see how it is happen, how the inheritance can occur in programming point of view. For that you need to create a kind of class. Okay, then you can observe how it is happen. Okay, so before that, before entering to the programming point of view, is my this definition is clear to you all, how the inheritance and how it is possible. So inheritance is nothing but simply it is a capability of accessing the properties from a superclass. Okay, we are going to access the properties whatever they have from the superclass. Yeah, let's see by taking example. For that I'm just defining a class. So for defining a class, what is the keyword? How to define a class? Yeah, for defining a class, you can use the keyword is class. After the class, you can pass the class name. I'm just passing the class name as parent. For better understanding, I'm just taking the names class name as parent. And inside this, I have a simple function. So for defining a function, we can use df keyword. And inside this, I have a function like f1. And inside this, I'm passing a simple statement like print. So inside this, I am just mentioning some kind of text like parent class. You can mention any kind of string for your better understanding. Okay, I'm just defining one class that is parent, and inside that parent class I am again defining one kind of function with f1 name, and there I'm passing a statement like in parent class. And if you want to define this function like f1, is that correct syntax, or do we need to change anything? Because we are defining this function inside the class, right? So is that correct syntax to define the class like this? Yeah, somebody says me like parentheses. Okay. So what else do you need to change? Because everything in the Python is related to object, right? So if you want to create an object means it will point out the one kind of parameter, that is self. Yeah. So you need to pass a self parameter. Then only it will consider to creating an object with respect to class parent. Okay. So don't forget to pass the self parameter in the functions. And after that, I'm going to create another class because we need to observe the inherent property, right? So for that, I'm going to create another class with the name of child. Okay. And inside this, I have a simple function like f2. So we are already discussing this self, right? Self is a parameter. So that will point out a kind of object. So object means in real time scenario, like everything is object. Whatever the mobile, the laptops, fan and AC, TVs, all these things are related to object. So if you want to point out that a kind of object, we can use a self parameter in the programming point of view. Okay. Okay. So def of f2, and also here also you need to pass self because everything is object. So with respect to that object only, we are going to call this function. So for that, you need to pass the self while initializing the functions. After that, here also I'm just mentioning some kind of print statement. So like in child class. Okay. So now what I want to do means I want to access the properties of parent class, whatever they have. So the all the actions or all the properties is simply considered as a functions. Here inside the programming, we can consider all the properties is belongs to like a functions. So now I need to access this f1 function inside our child class. Okay. So I'm defining a two classes. One is parent class, another one is child class. And now this child wants to access the properties from parent class. So in that case, you can access it. How can means while defining the classes, you just call the parent class name inside the parenthesis like this. Okay. Then it will access the properties of that parent having. Okay. Here the parent class name is parent. Okay. So this child wants to access this parent class properties. For that, you just keep a parenthesis along with the parent name in the function like this. Now it can be accessible all the properties that are belongs to parent. Now let's see after mentioning the initializing the classes and functions, just run it. Now you can observe. If you want to see the functions inside the classes, you can use DAR. DAR will gives you the functions or inbuilt methods that can support. Now I want to know the parent methods. So for that, I'm just passing DAR of parent. If I pass like that, so it will shows all the inbuilt methods. So we are not generating all these underscore methods. These are all automatically generates. These can be called as an inbuilt methods. So these are all generated like a underscore underscore. Okay, we are not initializing this all. And in the inside this, you can also observe underscore underscore init. So if you won't mention init constructor while defining a class, it will automatically generate init constructor. Okay. If you won't mention or if you want to initialize the init constructor in any class, it will automatically generate init constructor. Okay. And now after the inbuilt methods, you can observe there is a f1 method. There is a f1 method in the parent class. So why it is showing only f1 means inside the parent class we have only f1 function, right? So inside the parent class we have only f1 function, so that when you give dir of that class name, it will gives you the inbuilt methods along with the defined method, that is f1. Now if you want to know the child methods, if you want to know this child class methods, you just give dir of child. Now you can get the inbuilt methods along with the defined methods. So when you give dir of child, what is the user defined method we have? What is the method we have defined inside the child class? Let me know in the chat box. Yeah, inside the child class, we have only f2 method. Okay. So now only F2 method, but you can observe when you give dir of child, it will gives you the inbuilt methods like F1 and F2 also. But we are defining only F2 method, right? Then why it is showing F1 also? We are defining F2 only, but it will shows you F1 also while finding the dir. Yeah, why it is showing F1 also means we are inheriting the properties of parent class, because how you are inheriting like this child of parent, that means we are inheriting the properties of this parent class. Okay, that's why this F1 also can be accessible to the child class. This F1 function can also accessible to the child class. Like that inheritance can be happen. Okay, now let's see is that can be executable also. I'm just going to minimize this output. Now I'm going to create an object for this child class. Okay, how to create an object for any class? What is the syntax? How to create an object for any class? The object equals to class name. Now I'm going to take a one variable to create an object, that is obj. Obj equals to, here the class name is child. So I'm just typing ch and give tab. So it will gives you that corresponding classes that I have already have. So we have child class, we are already running. That's why it going to be appeared. When you give ch after the tab, it will automatically highlight it. Now I'm just running after creating object will running. Now you can see after obj dot, just give after typing obj dot, just give tab from your keyboard. Just give tab from your keyboard. Now you can observe the two methods. Those are F1 and F2. Okay. If you want to run F1, you can select F1 and you can give parenthesis. Now it will generate the output that F1 function have. So this F1 function is belongs to parent class. So we are mentioning some kind of print statement that is in parent class. That's why it will shows you the output is like in parent class. If you want to get the result like obj.f2 class, you can give f2 along with the parenthesis. Now it will returns the output in child class. Like this, the child class can access the properties or inherit the properties from the parent class. Like this inheritance can happen in programming point of view. Are you clear, guys, how the inheritance can happen in OOPS? Yeah, okay. So these inheritance also have four types. Let's see how it is and what are those types of inheritance. So the first type is single. Somebody asked me to parent to child. Parent child object is possible, ma'am. See, whatever the properties that parents have, we can access it, right? But whatever the properties that child have, that doesn't access by parents. You can think in a normal way. Our the properties that our parents have, we can use it. But whatever the properties that child have, that doesn't accessible by the parents. But if you want to create an object for the parent also, you can create it, because it is not restricted to create an object for only one class. We can create any class object. If a method with same name exists in both classes, which one will get executed? See, we will discuss about that. So that comes under polymorphism, Nagmani. So if the method have same names, which can be going to be executed, means that will comes under polymorphism. We will discuss when it comes. Okay, let's see types of inheritance. So we have totally 4 or 5 inheritance. Let's see single inheritance. The first one is single inheritance. We are already seeing single inheritance. That is whatever the concept we have covered here, like child can access the properties from parents. This is single inheritance example. And now the second type is multiple inheritance. The third one is multi-level inheritance. And the fourth one is hierarchical inheritance. And next one is hybrid inheritance. Okay. Hierarchical inheritance. And the fifth one is hybrid inheritance. We will discuss one by one. So the first, we are already covered the single inheritance. Okay. Convert the cell into markdown. So I'm just copying that previous code that we have discussed. This one, this is belongs to single inheritance. That means we have only single parent and single class. So that single child can access the properties or can inherit the properties from parent. That is belongs to single inheritance. So here I'm okay. So here I'm just going to create an object with respect to x variable, and I'm just creating an object for child class. Now I can access both f1 and f2 functions, like x dot f2 x dot f1. So okay, let's remove this print because it will automatically gives the result. Instead of print, we can directly pass it. So this is the example for single inheritance, and let's see multiple inheritance. Are you clear about single inheritance, all of you? Because we are already discussing the previous example that is belongs to single inheritance. Yeah, let's see the multiple inheritance. So the multiple inheritance means there might have so in the multiple inheritance we have we have a single child, and that single child can access the properties from two parent classes. That means they have two super classes and one subclass, that is one child class and two parent classes. Then that will comes under multiple inheritance. That means they have only one single class, and that one single class can be inherit the properties from one or more super classes or base classes. Okay, so let's see how it is happen. So in the multiple classes they have only one derived class. So derived or child, one derived class from one or more super classes. One derived child class inherit properties from one or more super classes. Then that is called as a multiple inheritance. In multiple inheritance, all the features of the base classes are inherited into the derived class. That means whatever the features that superclass having, that are can be derived or that are can be inherited to derived class or child class. Now let's see. So for that I'm going to define two classes. So the first class is A, and inside this I'm going to define a function like f1, and I'm going to pass a self parameter. For that it will point out the object, and inside this I'm just mentioning a print statement. It is class A and function f1, and I have again one more class, that is class B, and inside this I am defining a function f2 along with the self parameter, and the statement here is it is a belongs to class B and function 2, class B and function 2, function f2. So like this I have a two parent classes, and finally I have only single child. So for that I'm just defining a child with the class name of C, and this single child can inherit the properties from class A as well as class B. So it can be inherit the properties from class A and class B. That means the child can inherit the properties from grandparents as well as parents. So for that, if you want to inherit the properties from one or more classes, you can simply access them like after the class name, like A comma B. So whenever you define like this class of the parent class and also grandparent class, that means the C class can inherit the properties from class A as well as class B. Like this, the multiple inheritance can happen. Now inside this also I'm going to define one function with f3 self and print, and it is belongs to class class C and function f3. Okay. So that is about the installation of parent classes and grandparent as well as child. Now, if I create an object for child class, I'm going to create an object. So with respect to obj equals to, so the class name first is C, and then so there is no need to pass that AB. So now if you want to observe that, you can use dir of obj, so that it will tells you all the inbuilt methods as well as the defined methods. Now you can see the f1, f2, f3 also. When you create an object for the child class, and when you want to see the dir method with respect to that child class, it will gives you that f1, f2, f3 also. But we are defining inside the C class, we are defining only f3 method. But when I create an object for that C, and if I give dir with respect to that object, it will gives you that f1, f2 also. Because why it is giving that f1, f2 also means we are inherit the properties from class A as well as class B. So that when I give dir, it will gives you that f1, f2 also, because the class C is inherit the properties from class A and class B. This is like multiple inheritance can happen. Now if you want to execute any kind of function out of the parent class and grandparent class, you can use it like object dot. I just want to execute the f2 class, f2 method, you can run it. See, it will execute that f2 method. Defaultly that f2 method is belongs to B class, but we are going to execute it because the C can also have the property to access it. Okay, like this the multiple inheritance can happen. And now if you want to execute f1 also, you can use it because the C can also have the properties to use it, and f3 also because it is already defined in the C class only. Like this, you can use the properties that all belongs to grandparent and parent also with respect to multiple inheritance. Multiple inheritance. In the multiple inheritance, we have only one child, but we can have one or more or two or more super classes or base classes. This one desired class or child class can access or can inherit the properties from super classes or base classes. Is this clear to all? Let me know in the chat box. What about rest of them? If you have any doubts, you can ask me by unmuting your mic. Okay. So next we will see the multi-level inheritance. The multi-level inheritance. So it is not similar to the multiple inheritance. It is quite different to that multiple inheritance. So in the multi-level inheritance, the features of base classes and the derived classes features inherited to the new derived class. That means one to another. That means the grandparents' properties can be inherited to our parents. So our parents' properties can be inherited by two. So instead of it can be chain. It can be the form of chain format. So like this, let's take they have a grandparent classes. So the grandparent properties can be belongs to our parents, and after our parents only we can access it. So that is the difference between multiple and multi-level. So in the multiple, the child can access the properties from parent class as well as grandparent class at the same time. But here, the child class can be inherit the properties from parent only, not from the grandparent directly. So let's see. So I'm just mentioning it here. The features of the base class and derived class are future inherited into the new derived class. Future inherited into the new derived class. So this is similar to a relationship representation of our child and grandfather, right? So the features of base class and derived class are future inherited to the new derived class. So here the future inherited new derived class is child and the derived class is parent and the main base class is grandparent. Okay, the features of base class is derived to parent class and the next future inherited into the new derived class that is belongs to child class. So let's see how it is happen with programming point of view so that you will get more clarity. So for that I'm just using this same example only for better understanding, like class A, B, C only. So I'm just copying this context and here I'm going to paste it. Now you can observe we have a class A. So I'm just renaming this name, class name grandparent. I'm just mentioning this, the first class name as grandparent and the second class name as parent. If you want to keep like A, B only, you can keep it. So this is child. Okay, here the difference is in the multi-level, the difference is the parent class can inherit the properties from grandparent. So I'm just copying this class name and here I'm mentioning it. So when you mention it, it will the parent class inherit the properties from grandparent. It means the parent class can be inherit the properties from grandparent class. So now the child class can be inherit the properties from parent. Like in the real time scenario, the child can access the properties from our parents only, not from grandparents. So like this, the multi-level inheritance can happen. So the properties of parent, grandparent, those are belongs to parent only, not for child. So this is like a chain format in a real time scenario. So now rest of them are same, like function with some kind of statements inside that. Like in the grandparent, I am just mentioning f1 function. In the parent class, I have f2 function. In the child class, I have a f3 function. Okay, so what it means, this child class can access the properties from parent, not that it can access the properties from grandparent also, but it cannot directly access the properties. That is the difference here. And this parent can directly access the properties from grandparent. Now let's see, let's create the object for the child. So for that, I'm just taking the variable as ob equals to, so child. Now you can see after typing ob, now you can type f tab. You can see it can have f1 and f2. Why it is not showing f3? Let's see dir of ob. Let's take new variable here like y. I'm just taking new object variable here. So that is y equals to, so it is a capital C, right? So that is why it's not showing f3 also in previous. So child, I'm just running the cell again. Now object dot tab. So now you can see, so after typing y dot, you can just press tab from your keyboard. Now you can observe the f1, f2, f3. Those f1, f2, f3 also can be accessible, because inside the child class I have only f3, and when I inherit the properties from parent class, I can able to access only f2, right? So that means totally I can able to access f2 and f3, but I can also able to access this f1. Why? Because this parent class can also inherit the properties from grandparent. So whatever the properties that are belongs to parents, those are all belongs to child also. That's why this child class can also able to access that f1 method. So when you type object dot, just give tab, then you can observe all the methods that can support it. So it can support f1, f2, f3 also. That means it can access all the properties. It can inherit all the properties. Now if I give f2, it will also can be callable. I'll say y dot f3, it can also can be callable. Like this, the multi-level inheritance can be happen. The difference is, in the multiple, we can directly access the parents properties, and in the multi-level, we cannot directly access the grandparent properties. We can access only a parent, so that parent only can access the grandparent properties. Okay, so am I clear, guys? The multi-level inheritance, let me know in the chat box, all of you. Okay, So now let's see the hierarchical inheritance. Somebody asked me how an object understand if two classes with same names. As here we created one more child class above. See, that means you are asking me about if you have the same class names, how can it can point outs, right? Sri Vishnuvardhan Reddy. Now let's see, as you are asking, so I'm just changing this name here. So I have a parent here and grandparent here. So if I don't mention, and here also if I have a grandparent, so we cannot call it like that, right? So that is not a right format to call it. So if you have same class names, what is the need to initialize the same class names before that, Sri Vishnu? Where we can initialize the same class names. That means we cannot keep the
I'm
same
also
name for classes, right? Yeah.
in single inheritance. We have created a child class also, ma'am. Why?
Yes.
How can an object can understand that which class we are calling?
Yeah, we are telling that, right? So when you're creating an object, we are passing that class name, right? Like this. Object equals to class name. So when I created a class, when I call the class to creating an object, so it will automatically going that class name. The interpreter will goes to this class
Yeah,
definition.
yeah,
So
yeah.
in the class
If
definition, we are telling that child of parent. So we are telling that it is a child of parent. So it will automatically check the child class, and also inside the parenthesis we are passing parent class. So it will check is there any kind of parent class or function or variable. So
okay,
like
ma'am,
that it
that's
will
why.
execute.
If we create with another class with same name, what will happen?
So is there
As
any necessity to
yes,
create the same class name where we can create it? Can you keep the
suppose if
same
we
name for
unfortunately
some other
create with
person?
suppose if we unfortunately create with same name.
So if you create it, but how can you call it?
Yeah.
So if you see here the class name is so it is not a proper way. Just assume yourself. If I give class name as also child, and also here I'm passing child of child. So it will execute, but it is not a proper way to understand it. As a machine, as a human also, we cannot take the same names, right? So see here
Okay,
it
ma'am.
can be executed. So we are passing, but it can be executed and it gives a result also. But in the real-time scenarios, we are mostly not encouraging that kind of programming. That's why for better understanding, we are taking different names only. Yeah, the next concept is hierarchical inheritance. Inheritance. Let's make a heading. Yeah, both will be accessible, but it will generate some kind of heap memory. Yes. Yeah. Here also it's not raises any kind of error if they have same names. But if I tell you like same name, somebody gets confused. They are not from programming background, right? Yeah. So hierarchical inheritance. Here the hierarchical inheritance means when more than one derived class. That means we have two or more child classes, and those child classes can be accessed the properties from only single parent class. That means we have one or more child classes and the parent class is only single. We have only one parent class and that parent class can be, the properties from that parent class can be accessible by one or more derived classes. In that case, the hierarchical inheritance can be happen. So let's make it here when more than one derived classes. So here derived classes is nothing but child classes. So here when you have more than one derived classes from more than one derived classes are created or can be inherit the properties from single base. Derived classes inherit properties from single base or single parent. That means we have only single parent, but so many children are there. In that case, hierarchical inheritance can be possible. So this can be simply called as a hierarchical inheritance. So in this, we will create a parent or base class and along with the two child classes. Let's see, we can take only one parent class and two child class. And with respect to that, we are going to do a programming. Let's see how it is possible. So before that, convert this cell into markdown. Okay, for that I'm just taking one class. So the class can be parent class. So the class here I'm taking is parent, or else let's make it as p1. And inside this I have a function like a fun1, and with respect to the variable is self. And inside this I'm just mentioning a print statement like, so it is a parent class. I'm just mentioning a kind of statement here is, it is parent class, or else in parent class. And after that I have a two derived classes, two childs. Those are like C1 and C2. These C1 and C2 can inherit the properties from P1. And inside this I'm going to define a function like f2 fun2 respect to self. And it is belongs to in a child1. It is belongs to child1 class. I'm just copying this child1 code and here I'm going to paste it, and I'm just renaming this name as child2 with C2. And this child2 also can inherit the properties from P1, and the function name is p fun3, and this belongs to child2 class. Okay, so that means we have only single parent class with the name of P1, and it have two child class, those are C1 and C2. These two childs can inherit the properties from single parent, that is P1. Okay, so now let's see how it is going to be inherit the properties. For that I'm just creating an object. So for creating an object I'm just taking z is my variable here. So C2, I'm creating an object for these two childs for C1 and C2 as well. So first of all, let's create an object for C1. Variable. So it will create it, and after that I'm going to create another object. So for C1 object is Z1 and C2 object is Z2. C2. So I'm just creating a two object for two childs like C1 and C2. Now let's see the Z1 dot. When I type Z1 dot, I'm giving a tab. So now it can access fun1 and fun2. This fun1 is belongs to parent class. this fun1 is belongs to parent class, and fun2 is belongs to child1 class. So this z1, this child1 object can also inherit the properties from parent. So if you want to execute any one of that, just select that one. It can be executed like this. So when you give fun1, it will tells you that it is belongs to in your parent class. And if I give z1 dot fun2, it will belongs to child1 class. So it going to be generated. Now if I pass z2 dot, you can see here also the fun1 can be accessible by child2. That's why it will gives you fun1 and fun3. So now if I give fun1, it is belongs to parent class. And if you want to access the main method inside that child2 class, you can use z2 dot fun3. So it will gives you it is belongs to in a child2 class. So like this, you can access the properties in the hierarchical inheritance. So in the hierarchical inheritance, we have only single parent, but that single parent have many childs like C1 and C2. So every child can inherit the properties from parent. Is this clear, guys? Hierarchical inheritance. All of you respond in the chat box. Somebody asked me that only one parent class is possible, ma'am. Yes, only one parent class. We have only one parent, but they have several childs like C1 and C2. In that case, it is comes under hierarchical inheritance. Okay. Now let's see hybrid inheritance. This is the last type of inheritance. So the hybrid inheritance means the inheritance consisting of multiple types of inheritance. That means it is a combination of multiple inheritance. That means it is a combination of single level inheritance as well as multiple level inheritance. So this inheritance is consist of multiple types of inheritance. It can be simply called as a hybrid inheritance. So when you hear this definition, it is a kind of some not understandable manner, but you will get clarity when it comes to programming. Don't worry about that. Let's make a heading first. Let's make a definition first. So inheritance consisting of multiple types of inheritance. Okay, so the hybrid inheritance is nothing but the inheritance combination of multiple types of inheritances. That means here it can be occurred a kind of single level as well as multiple level. So it is a combination of multiple types of inheritance. So let's see how it is happen in practical. So for that I'm just defining a one class. The class name, yeah, let's take yeah, college. The class name here I'm just taking is college, and inside this I have a function like one function like f1. So we need to pass self also. So inside this I'm just mentioning a print statement like, so this is a function in the college. So this is this function is belongs to school class. Okay, function in school class. I have a method like this, f1 method. Now I have some other class. class. So that class, the first class name is student1, like S1, student1. So inside this student1 can also access the properties from college, right? So every student can access the properties from college. So for that, I'm just taking one student as a class name. So this student1 can inherit the properties from college. That's why I can mention college in the parenthesis. And inside this, the function is, I'm just mentioning this is function F2, and this function in student1 class. This function belongs to student1 class. And likewise, I'm going to create another class. So this student, here I'm just taking some other student like student2, and this student2 can inherit the properties from college as well as student1. College as well as student1. So I'm just copying this class name. The student2 can access the properties from college as well as student1. That means here in this case it is belongs to single inheritance, and in this case it is belongs to multiple inheritance. So hybrid inheritance is nothing but combination of multiple types of inheritance. Those are maybe single and those are maybe multiple. It is a combination of single, multiple, all those. So I'm just changing the function definition F3 and this function in student2 class. Okay. Now I'm going to create an object for student2. So with the name of S equals to student2. What it is telling me that cannot create a consistent method relation order MRO for base college student. Yeah, it can follow some kind of MRO order. So let's change the positions of these classes. First of all, I'm just mentioning student1, and then it can access the properties from college. Now it can work fine. So what it is showing means the student1 can inherit the properties from college, but when I access the student2 also same properties at the same time, it can be some mismatching. So in that case, I'm just changing the positions. So like in the first step, the student2 can access the properties from student1. After that, it can access the student can access the properties from college. So when I mention college at the same in the starting position, so the student1 also having the same position as a first college parameter, college class. That's why it will raise a kind of MRO error. MRO means it can follow the execution like left side to right side. So in the left side we can mention student1. In the right side I'm mentioning college. So if I mention college means it is not following the same order because the student1 also having the first parameter having the properties which is from college. So there may be a order problem when I make like college comma student. That's why I'm just changing the classes positions while inheriting of student2. So now it's not raising any kind of MRO error. Now let's see. So yes dot. So this yes, the student2 can access the properties from student1 as well as college. So after typing yes dot, I'm just giving tab. Now you can see the student2 can also access the functions of F1 and F2. Those are belongs to college and student1 because the student2 is inherit the properties from those two. So if I mention F1, so this F1 is belongs to school class. It is not school class. It is a college class, right? So F1 function is belongs to college class, and the F2 function is belongs to student 1 class. Like this, you can inherit the properties. So these are all the types of inheritance. Is this clear to all? Let me know in the chat box, all of you. In the hybrid inheritance, it may be possible with single inheritance like this and multiple inheritance like this. Okay. So what about rest of them? Is the types of inheritance is clear to all? Okay, thank you. Thanks for your responses. Next, we will see data encapsulation. This is also one of the important property in object-oriented programming. Data encapsulation. So data encapsulation is nothing but here the data can be wrapped together inside the class. Yeah, wrapping up of the data, wrapping up data. So here all the data like variables and methods, all the data should be wrapped together inside the class only. So why we need to wrapping means, so for protecting the data. So data is very important, data is very precious. To protect that data, so to prevent the accidental security issues, so we are using data encapsulation, and this data encapsulation is very important in object-oriented programming. So in this, we are wrapping the data into a single class. Whenever somebody want to access that data, it cannot be possible because we are wrapping up into a single class only. So we can access that wrapping data inside the class only, not outside the class. So for security purposes, we can use this data encapsulation technique. Let's see how it is happen in the object-oriented programming. So before that, let's make a definition. Encapsulation is one of the fundamental concept in OOPS, object-oriented programming. It describes like data wrapping. Data wrapping with one unit or one class. Okay, describes that the data wrapping with respect to only one class. So that means here we can wrap the data, or data means inside the class we can have a variables or attributes, we can have a methods or functions. All the methods, all the variables can be wrapped up together inside a class. So this puts in a restriction to accessing the variables and methods directly, so that we can prevent the accidental problems, accidental modifications of data. So when you wrap up the data into a single class, so other persons they are not going to be access it. So it will provide some kind of security. So in that cases, we can use this data encapsulation so that we can restrict the, so we can restrict the accessing of variables and methods of a class directly. That means others cannot be accessible directly, these variables and methods of a class. So why they don't need to access it means to prevent the accidental changing. Once they get the data, they might be changed, right? So it will causes to project loss or data loss. So that we can use this security one kind of property, that is data encapsulation. So for that we can use a kind of functions and variables by taking practically. Let's convert this cell into markup. So encapsulation is one of the fundamental concept of OOPS. It can defines like data wrapping up within a single unit or within a single class. So with respect to that class only we can use it. Others cannot be use it. So that we can restrict the access to others. So in this case, you will get one terminology like private variables and private methods. Private variables and private methods. So up to now we have seen public variables and public methods. That means inside the class and outside the class we can use that variables and methods. So on every location we can access it, that variables and methods. So we can call it them as public variables and public methods. So but at any time it is not possible. Some data may be secured. So at owner point of view, there may be some kind of security issues. In that case, they can define the variables and methods like a private. So for defining the data variables privately, we can use data encapsulation technique. So to define any kind of variables or methods as privately, we can use a symbol called underscore. Use underscore, double underscore. So it is a underscore. We can use the double underscores to define a private methods or variables or private variables. Okay. If you want to define a private variables or private methods, we can use double underscores. So that will be helpful to define privately. Okay. Now let's see how it is happen in practical with programming. So for that, I'm just defining one class like. So you can take any kind of class name. So I'm just taking class name as Python. Okay, inside the class name, I have a function. So the function name is APSSTC. Inside this, I have a self parameter. So here I'm just mentioning one kind of variable like self dot underscore underscore. So I need to mention one kind of variable. So in the first step, we are going to see how to create a private variables. Private variables. So how to create a private variables in the classes means with respect to double underscores. We can create a private variables so that the data should not be accessible by others. So for creating a variables, where we can initialize the variables in the classes means in the init method, or we can define a functions also, right? So in here I'm just taking a kind of self parameter. So to define that, so I'm just mentioning a kind of init method only to define a variables, right? So constructor init, def of init, and then self, and inside this so self dot underscore underscore. Here I'm just taking one kind of variable like a equals to, I'm just assigning a kind of variable with value of APSSTC. Okay, here I'm just taking one variable like self. So with respect to self, I'm just defining one variable like double underscore a. So for this variable a, I'm just assigning one string like a pieces dc. And whenever you define a variable like double underscore, this can be simply called as a private variable. So we can call this private variable inside the class only. We cannot call this, or we cannot access this private variable outside the class. So let's see. For accessing it, I'm just mentioning one kind of view function. Inside this, I can mention self. Print self dot underscore underscore a. Now I'm going to create a variable object for displaying this function view. So the object is x here, x equals to u of we are not directly accessing it, right? We are going to create an object for Python class. Now we can see x dot view. When I type x dot view, it will we can access it because this function. So this variable can be callable inside the class only. We cannot call this variable outside the class. So now let's see. For that, I'm just creating a new function like again v1 self, and inside this I want to assign a new data to this variable. I just want to modify that data self dot underscore underscore a is equals to b. So I'm going to mention that b here, self comma b. So with respect to b, I'm just assigning this data, whatever the data that underscore underscore a. So that data should be assigned to b. Now finally I'm going to print that print of again self dot underscore underscore a. So here what I'm doing means I'm just taking a new variable to store this private data variable. Okay, to store this private data variable. So that is b. So with respect to b, I'm just going to access this. I'm just accessing this private variable data. Now let's see is that can be changeable or can be accessible. I'm just running this cell. Now I'm going to access that v1 function. So while accessing that v1 function, I need to mention this b as well, right? So that it can be taken. If you don't mention anything, it will raise an error, because in the v1 function it can accept two parameters. One is self. So self will point out the object. So we don't need to pass any kind of self data. So it can take exactly the b value. So it will raise an error that is b. So it will require one b positional argument. So you need to pass something data with respect to that b variable. So if I pass b value as like any data, if I pass b value as triple R, so it will give the data as triple R. That means we can change this private variable data with respect to that inside the class only. We cannot change that outside the class. Okay, so we can change this private variable data inside the class only. So if you want to change this data outside the class, it will raise an error. So it will not raise an error, but it cannot be changed the values. See, give me a minute. So here the parameter is self, and we are taking b. Now let's see. Now it's working. If I don't mention any kind of variable here, and here I'm assigning some new data to this self underscore a value, that is some 1000. So I'm assigning some data like 1000. I'm just running this cell. Now when I call this v1 function, so it will raise an error like type error, because previously we are defining that I need to mention that b. So it will take 1000 as well. If I won't mention this variable, it will raise an error. That means it is attribute not defined, type error. v1 takes one positional argument, but two are given. So that means it is not required, right? So when I type it, so this variable also can be privately, it can be accessible. Yeah, somebody asked me a doubt like it is callable in derived class if it is inherited. Yeah, these all can be applicable with loops. So if you want to work out these private variables in inheritance property also, you can do it. It can support. Like this, you can create a private variables. So now let's see. So if I want to access this private variable outside the class, it will raises an error. Let's see it is raises an error or not. If you want to access it outside it, you can like this. You can directly like access it like. So we have a variable object like x dot underscore underscore a. If I call so x dot underscore underscore a, it will raises an error like Python object has no attribute underscore underscore a. But we are already defined this underscore underscore a, right? But whenever you want to access this private variable outside the class, it will raises an error. So that is the purpose of private variables. You can initialize the variable, so in the init method. But when you want to access this underscore underscore private variable outside the class, it will raises an error, that is attribute error. So it will raise error like attribute. So that is the purpose of private variables. You can call this private variable inside the class only. We cannot call these private variables outside the class. So to protecting for providing securities, it will raises an error when you call outside the class like this attribute error. Okay, so let's take some other example also. So that example like class equals to, I'm just taking class name as m1, and here I'm just mentioning a variable like, here I'm just mentioning this private variable as globally equals to some 10, and I'm just mentioning def add self comma. So to adding a numbers, I'm just mentioning a function like self comma b. That means we are already defining a value with the private data like underscore underscore a. So when I define this function along with that private variable, we can use it. So for storing the sum, I'm using sum equals to self dot I need to use that a value also. So I can use self dot underscore underscore a plus b. So finally, I'm going to print this sum, or you can return also. You can use return also when you don't want to print something. You can use return also. Return sum. So sum is my variable here that can store the result of that a and b. Now I'm going to create an object to the class with ob equals to class name is m1, return outside the function. So now you need to mention this return statement inside the function only. So when I pass ob dot tab, so it will gives me that they have only add function. Okay, so when I pass, so I need to pass add values. So the add function takes only one attribute, that is b. So here I'm just mentioning b value as 12, 121. Let's see, it will give you the result as 131 because defaultly that underscore underscore a have the private data that is 10. Okay, so it will gives you the addition of the data totally as 131. Now if I want to access this directly, so if I want to access this underscore underscore a value directly, let's see. Before that, let's access the b value, ob dot. So I have an object with respect to ob. So I have a variable data like b. So it is not defined. So because that is inside the function. So if I want to access this underscore underscore a variable directly, that is also inside the class. So if I access it outside the class, like have a variable ob dot underscore underscore a, so it will raises an error. So what is the error means? It is an attribute error. So that means outside the function we cannot access it directly. Private variables cannot be accessible outside the function. When you define it globally also, we cannot accessible outside the function. So here we are defining the private variables inside the init method, and here the private variables defined inside the class like this. So but make sure the private variables can be defined with underscores only, double underscores at the starting. Okay, am I clear guys? Let me know in the chat box. In the encapsulation, only one class should be declared. So it is not mandatory to define only one class. So we can define any kind of any number of classes. See, if you take one application, if you want to develop one project, there may be so many classes, not only single class. So if you want to define a private variables only with respect to one class, you can use only one class. And apart from the one next classes, there may be public variables. Okay, now let's see how to define a private methods. So up to now we have seen private variables, right? So now let's see private methods. Should we use sum as a private variable? We can use it. So after storing the result, you can define it. So if you want to define any kind of private variables, you can use underscore underscore. So that it can be defined. But after storing the sum result, if you want to convert them as a private, up to now I'm not looking into that. Try it out yourself. I am also looking into that. Okay. So up to now I'm not trying in that, because after storing the result of the AB, if you want to convert that sum also private, I don't know it is possible, because every time we need to initialize the private variables dynamically, not static. Okay. Now let's see private methods. So private methods means the private variables can be accessible inside the class, as well as methods also can be defined as a privately, so that that function cannot be accessible outside the class. functions, the private functions cannot be accessible outside the classes, so that can be called as a private methods. These private methods also can be defined as a double underscores. Private methods also defined as a double underscores. So convert this cell into motor. Now let's see. For that, I'm just defining one class. Class A belongs to car, and inside this I have a constructor. I have a constructor with self parameter, self dot. So inside the constructor only, I'm going to define a one method. So that is update. So I'm going to define one method, that is update. Okay, inside the constructor only, I'm going to define a one private method. So that's why I'm mentioning double underscore before that, and then method name, whatever you mention, that method name. The method name should be along with the parenthesis. So after that, I'm just mentioning one function like def of. So this is belongs to a kind of car class. So I'm just mentioning one drive class, a drive function. So inside this I have a self. Whenever I call this drive function, I need to print something like driving. I need to print like driving. Okay. And after that, so whenever you have a class like this, and inside that class in the constructor, it may have some kind of private method, that is underscore underscore update. Whenever you create an object for this car class, it will automatically execute the constructor, right? So it will automatically execute the constructor. So in the constructor, we are defining one private method, that is update. So when you create an object, it will raise a one error like underscore underscore update is not an attribute. So up to now we are not defining this method, right? So inside this we have only one method, that is drive. So but in the constructor we are defining, I have a one method. So after defining that method, I need to convert that method as a private. So that in the initialization only, I'm just converting that method as a private, like by passing double underscore in front of it. Now, so when I created, it will raise an error, that is double underscore update not defined. So to avoid that errors, you need to define that underscore methods also, private methods also. So def of the method name here is update. So the method name is update. You need to pass self parameter also. Self parameter. So inside this update method, have a one print statement like you need to update your software, like that, update your software. So whenever I call a update function privately, I need to get a statement like update your software, so that I can mention that statement inside the print. Now when I create an object for the class with the name of C. C is my object to create a object for the car class. So C equals to car. So what it will executes. So when you create an object, the constructor will automatically execute it. The constructor here is init. So inside the init, we have a private method, that is update. Whenever I create an object for the car class, it will automatically execute this private method. So what is the private method? This update method having a printing statement like update your software. So that's why we are getting the output as update your software as a result. Are you guys clear about this? Why I'm getting this update your software result means, instead of so up to now I'm not calling this update function, right? But it will automatically generate update your software when I create an object for my car class. Why it is giving means, whenever you create an object for any class, it will defaultly call the constructor. It will defaultly call the init method. So it will execute the variables or methods inside it. So inside the init constructor, I have a private method double underscore update. So it will automatically execute this update method, and it will return the statement inside this. Inside the update method, I have a statement like update your software. That's why I'm getting the result when I create the object for car class with respect to C variable. Yeah, it is up to you. I'm just taking a function name with the name of update. So I need to create this update function name as a private so that I can use double underscore in front of it. Then only the machine can understand it is a private method. It cannot be accessible outside the class. It can be callable inside the class only. So whenever you want to keep a functions privately, you can use double underscores. After passing the double underscores, you need to mention that method inside the init only. Because with respect to init only, we are going to initializing any kind of variables or anything, right, in the oops. So that you can mention that the private method by passing double underscore in front of it in the init constructor. We can write it as a def update it. So here when you type update of self, so if you won't mention anything inside this, it will consider it is a function, right? So you don't need to mention self inside this while defining it, because we are calling this update method with respect to self parameter. So self will point out the automatic object. So when you execute it, it will create an object like car. It will check with the class like car class, and it will execute the init constructor. So inside the init constructor, we have a self. So this self will point out this C particular object, and it will checks with the update method, and it is a private method. So it will checks with the update private method and it executes directly. You don't need to keep self also inside this. If you have some other data like this self comma, if I have X, in such cases you need to mention this X also. Okay, in such cases you need to mention this X also, and while creating the object you need to pass the X value also. Because whenever you create an object, the init constructor will automatically calls and it will automatically execute the value. It will automatically checks with the variables along with the values. So that's why you need to pass it. So here we are two are given, init takes only one. So in that case you need to mention X also here. Okay. So you don't need to mention self if you have only self parameter inside the function. So if you have some other parameters other than self, you can pass it like this. Okay. Are you clear, Putri, now? See, what is the use of X? So that means if you don't have anything inside the function, that means I need to use X as my data inside the function. So I need to initialize the variable, right? Instead of, so if you won't mention that X, we cannot use it, right? So I need to just print that X also so that I can use print self dot X, self dot X. So whenever I need to mention this X inside the init constructor also, so that only we can access that variables inside the functions. That's why I'm mentioning X also in the constructor, and this update method also having the X, because while defining I need to take X variable. So for define in the constructor also I need to pass the X along with the function name. That's why I'm mentioning X variable. Now if you call this constructor, it will execute update your software as well as it will print the value of X also, because we were printing this X also in the update method. It will register an error. What was that? Car object has no attribute X. So we need to mention this like self dot X. I think so. So sometimes if you have a if you want to print something, we need to initialize the variables inside the x parameter, right? Inside the init constructor. In that case, you can use it. And when I print it, print up self dot x. If I mention x also, it is not required. Missing one required portion alternate x. I pass to along. Yeah. Now it will gives you that x value also. Because what I'm doing means you need to you just focus on how to create a private methods. So I have a private method that is having some x value, so that I can use update as my private method with the x value. So I need to mention that function like this while you initializing. You need to initialize the function like this underscore underscore update of x also, self comma x, and I need to print the x value. So when I execute this update method, I just want to print something like update your software. So when I create a car object for the car class, it will automatically execute the private method, because I'm just mentioning this private method inside the init constructor. So it will automatically print the x value, because in the update method I have a print statement with respect to that x result, and also it is some kind of printing statement. So that's why when I create an object, it will automatically uh, call the init constructor and execute the private method, and it will give you the result with respect to that private method. Okay, like this you can create a private methods. And now if I want to access this private method outside the class, so now let's see, if I want to access this private method, drive method, let's see, I have a object with respect to c dot drive off. So when I call c dot drive, it will gives me the result as driving, because inside the function I have a statement like driving. Okay, inside the drive method I have a statement like driving, so that it's working fine. If I want to access this c dot underscore underscore update like 2, because this update method must have x value, right? It cannot be accessible because this is a private method. That's why it cannot be accessible directly. So you can call any other functions, because these are functions is public. These functions are public. You can call it anyway. But this update method is a private method. That's why we cannot access this private method directly. If you want to access it, you can access it with respect to class only. That's why it will raise an error when you call it outside the class. It will raise an error like core object has no attribute update. But we have a method this, right? Update method is there. But why it is raising an error means it is a private method. We cannot directly access it. So if you want to access this private method, you can you can access it with respect to constructor like this while defining inside the constructor. Okay. X can be accessed outside the class. Yeah, we can call this x outside the function also, outside the class also, because x is not a private variable, right? So we are, it is not a private variable. We are normally define it. So if you define it like underscore underscore, it is a private variable, and that's not can be callable. So x is not a private variable. Here the method is only private variable, private. Okay. So am I clear, guys, up to this? And I forgot one thing. In inheritance, we are seeing only with respect to functions, right? And we have one more thing in the inheritance. Let's see how the constructor will work. So I forgot to tell you that. So Constructor in inheritance. So constructor in inheritance. So that means how the constructor can be callable when inherit the properties from one to another class. Let's see. So for that, let's copy one basic example what we have defined already. Yeah, let's take this example. So I have a one class like P1, and inside the P1 class I have a function, and I have a one child class like C1, and this C1 can be called, can access the properties from P1. And along with this, I have a constructor also inside the parent class. Let's see, let's define the constructor. So if you want to define a constructor, you can use underscore underscore in it. Inside this, you need to pass self. Now I'm just mentioning some kind of printing statement. That's it. I don't do any kind of changes. Print of P1 constructor. It is related to P1 constructor. I'm just mentioning that block of statement here. So when I execute P1, when I create an object for the P1, so I need to get a result like it is belongs to P1 constructor. Because when you create an object for the class, the init constructor can automatically callable, right? So now, yeah, now I just want to create an object for the child class. If I create an object for the child class, which class can be taken? Is it is taken the inbuilt class, or it can take the constructor of P1 class? Let's see. So for that, I'm just taking a object variable as A1. A1 equals to C1. So I'm going to create an object for the child class. So what it going to be executed? You can observe what it is giving, which constructor it can be takes when you create a child class object. So if they have inbuilt constructor, that going to be executed. But when so this child can be access the properties from parent class, that is P1. And when I create a constructor, when I create an object for the child class, it will automatically execute the P1 constructor, parent constructor. That is, this constructor going to be executed when you create an object for the child class. So why it is they're taking the init constructor of parent? Why it is not taking the itself init itself? Because inside this it doesn't have init constructor. We are not defining manually. If it is already defining, that going to be taken. But inside the C1 class we don't have init constructor. So it will checks with the parent constructor. If it is there, that going to be accessed. That's why when you create an object for the C1 class, it will create a constructor. It will call the constructor of the parent class P1, and it will give the result as P1 constructor. Okay, like this you can create a constructor. And what if you have a inbuilt constructor? See, up to now inside the C1 class, we don't have user defined constructor. That's why it will checks with the parent constructor and it can be accessed. But what if they have own constructor? Let's see. So for that, I'm just creating constructor here. The constructor can be defined with the init method only. You already know about this. And inside this, I'm just mentioning a kind of belongs to C1 constructor. Now, when I create an object for the C1 class, which constructor is going to be taken? Let me know in the chat box. When I create an object for the child class, it will take parent class constructor or their own constructor. Let me know in the chat box. Yeah, it will take their own constructor only. Why it is not taking parent class constructor means if they have inbuilt or predefined constructor, it will take that only. If it is not there, it will check with the parents and it inherit the properties from there. And now let's see. Now now you can see when I create a object for the child, it will check with the inbuilt constructor and it's going to be executed. And if they don't have inbuilt in constructor, it will check with the parent and it's going to be access it. We are already seen in the previous. Now I just want to access this parent constructor also along. I just want to access this parent constructor also along with the inbuilt constructor. Okay, I just want to access this parent constructor also along with the inbuilt constructor. In that case, you can use a keyword that is super. So if you want to access the constructor of super class or parent class, you can use one keyword that is super. So how you going to access it means inside the init method, you can use super method, super dot. You need to mention that constructor name. The constructor name is underscore init. I just want to access that init constructor also so that I can use super dot init underscore. There is a 2 underscores. So when you pass super dot underscore init, it will access the super class init constructor. It will access this at the first time. It will take super class init constructor and it's going to be executed like this. And after that, it will execute with their own constructor. Okay. Now let's see. Now you can observe at the first time it will generate the result as P1 constructor. So where it is came? So with respect to this super dot init only, it will execute this super method init constructor. So super means super class or a parent class. So whenever you want to access the parent constructor also along with your own constructor, you can use super is a one kind of keyword dot that constructor name. The constructor name we have in the super method or parent method is init. And you don't need to mention self parameter because it will automatically point out the object. Okay, so like this you can call the constructor inside the child class also. Now so this same will be applicable to the methods also. So for that I'm just copying this entire code and pasting in the new cell. Now so I have one more class. Let's assume I have one more class. I have one more parent like P2. I have one more parent like P2 and they have also init constructor and it is P2 constructor and the function name is fun2 and it is in the parent2 class. And I have a child class. This child class can access the properties from P1 class as well as P2 class. This is belongs to multiple inheritance. When the child can access the multiple inheritance, so which constructor can it takes? Okay, which constructor can it takes? Because when I mention init method, inside the init method, I just want to access the P1 constructor as well as P2 constructor. When I call that P1 P2 inside the super like super dot init, because inside the P1 also I have a constructor with the name of init and P2 also I have a name of the constructor with init. So which one it can take? Either P1 or P2. So it will follows the MRO order. We're already seen in the previous. So we're already seen it will follow the MRO order, marginal operational position, something there is a definition. So it will follow the MRO order. So that means it will execute, it will take from the left side only. That means it will take only P1 constructor when you use super dot init constructor. So that is a inbuilt MRO syntax that can follow. So it will take left side. That means it will execute P1 constructor only. Now if you see, so it will takes only P1 constructor when you use super method inside the child class, and the child class can access P1, P2 also. Out of the P1, P2, it will takes only P1 constructor because it will follows the MRO order. It will takes only left side parent class or left side class data only. And this is belongs to functions also. This works same for functions also. Now let's see if I have a function like fun2. This in the C1 class I have a fun2 function, and inside this fun2 I just need to, this C1 can access P1, P2 functions as well, right? I just want to access this. Okay, let's rename this. This is fun3. So inside this fun3, I just want to access this fun2. I just want to access this fun2 function, so that you can use super dot you can mention that function name. Okay, the function name I need to execute is fun2, and you don't need to mention self. Okay, now if I call this fun3, it will execute the fun2 at the first time, and it will execute the rest of lines after. Now let's see. I have a constructor with the a1 variable, a1 dot. I need to access this fun3 function, so I can use a1 dot fun3. When I call this fun3, at the first step, it will execute the fun2 function, because inside the fun3 I'm calling the super method, that is fun2, super class method, that is fun2, with the syntax of super dot fun2. So it will execute the fun2. So that means it will print the result like in parent2 class. After that it will print the result like in child1 class. Now let's see. Now see, it will give the result like this. This is belongs to fun2 class output, and this is belongs to child class output. It is inside the fun3. Okay. Like this, the constructor can take place inside the inheritance and also functions. So if you want to access the particular constructor as a first stage or primary stage, you can mention that in the first position. Like if you want to access the P2 constructor, you can mention P2 as the first, while defining the class of child, so that it can be accessible. And we're already seen accessing the functions inside the functions also, like with the name of super dot that particular function name, so that that particular super method functions also callable. Okay. Yeah. Am I clear, guys? All of you up to this? That's it about the today's class. If you have any doubts, you can unmute your mic and speak to me. Thank you, one and all.